book hour with Caroline. This time we will be going through all of the books that I am really excited to read for fall. Fall is definitely one of my favorite times to read, and I would like to just preface this with most of the books behind me I have not read yet, but I am quite familiar with the plot, and I'm really excited to dive deep. Some of them I read like halfway, but yes, let me share with you first this lovely cake that I got. So on the weekend, I really like going to the bakery when I wake up in the morning, and they had this lemon chiffon cake, and I thought it was so pretty. And I'm like, should I get this? And they're like, yes, it's not going to be here forever. And I was like, okay, well, that's a sign. It's really good. Now, to get started on these books, the first book we're going to start with, which is one I'm really excited to read, is called London by the Novel. London the Novel by Edward Rutherfurd. Yes, Edward Rutherfurd, author of Sarum, which I have not read. But what really, this book fascinates me because it's basically the story of an imaginary, it's a story of a family. It's a story of a family that it's like their history through 2,000 years, basically. So, but it's like a made-up family. It's not like a real family. I think it goes through, and it's like through Julius Caesar time, you know, probably through the Tudor era, all that. But my most favorite part is that the names of the chapters are quite good. Like, to hell with the rest, let's go through the chapter names. Okay, the first chapter is called The River. Second, Londonum. Number 3, The Rood. Number 4, The Conqueror. Number 5, The Tower. Number 6, The Saint. Number 7, The Mayor. Number 8, The Whorehouse. And number 9, The London Bridge. And yeah, all those things. It keeps going. There's like 21 chapters. But I'm very excited to read this because, I mean, if you've got a chapter named The Whorehouse, that's got to be interesting. Especially in the London era. I mean, I think that's what they're known for. I just think that, yeah, I'm just really excited for that one. Okay, next book. Atonement. So I've watched the movie a few times, and I figured for fall, I mean, it's a luxurious, elegant film, and I figured the movie should be, or the book should also be luxurious, and it's about two people who basically fall in love during World War II, or right before World War II, and a jealous little sister just destroys everything, and they try to find each other again, or they were torn apart by a lie, and spoiler alert, they never make it, but yeah, it's luminous and lush, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think fall is a great time to read really tragic romance, But I mean, frankly, I prefer romance where they get, you know, they make up, kiss and make up and stuff and find each other. But, you know, you can't always have what you want. Alright, so the third book, which is like the cutest book I've ever seen, quite possibly in my life. I have to like hide the cuteness. No, actually, it's real cute. It's called Parisian Cats. Yeah, and it's basically all of the cats of Paris. Well, not all of the cats in Paris, but like they've got montages of like cats in their lives and their names. And I mean, this cat's name's Faron, and he lives in the Bristol Hotel. And this cat is Narcy. I don't know French very well. And he lives in the Beau-style Grand Palais by the Eiffel Tower. And let's find one of my favorite cats. This one's just named Kitty, and he lives in a bookstore. This one is so cute. Oh my god. Look at this guy. You cannot deny this book. Like, this book, if you like cats and you think cats have like really like cool personalities, this book is like all about cat personalities. But Paris too. So like if you ever do go to Paris, maybe you can visit some of these cats. You know, like this cat is hanging out with a spooky haunted doll. Like, obviously he's not scared because he's a cat. Yeah, what else? I mean, Moulin Rouge cat. You know, you could go to Moulin Rouge and you can look for this cat. Okay, this book is just the best book it's by Myron. Okay, it's basically just called Parisian Cats. Link in description. Photography is by Nadia, Benchallal, and text is by Olivia. Okay, I really don't know French, and I extra don't know French last names, but good job. This is like God's work here. This is like, if this was my only thing I've ever done in my life was make this book, I'd be pretty pleased with myself. Yeah, that's a book that you read, you know, over your morning coffee or tea or cake or whatever it is you gotta do, and you just need to read like just a tiny bit, you know, or if you're really bummed out and sad about something, you're like, okay, let me get cheered up by some cat pictures. Yeah, that's what that book's for. And God knows fall is like one of those weird times where you're like, I don't know, I feel kind of weird. It's like, it gets really cold and then it gets really hot, and you know, there's change. You know, a lot of people don't like change, and cat pictures are really good for that. Okay, this one is, I got this at my local bookstore a block away. This is like my favorite movie story ever, but I'm embarrassed to say that I've never actually read the actual book. I've went through the PDF and like, you know, tried to capture quotes, but like I've never actually read the entire thing. But this is the genius work of Emily Brontë, Wuthering Heights. My favorite movie is the like old version from like the 40s. It's like black and white and it's like so beautiful. But this one, it's basically a violent romance. I mean, I think that's what you would call it. A violent romance where two people are in love, but they hate each other, but they love each other, but they, there's like, it's like the strongest love in the world, essentially, is in this book. I mean, they both get married to different people, but somehow, in the end, he still manages to cuddle up to her corpse, or try. I mean, I guess that's why this is a book for fall, is that, you know, at the end of a book, if the main characters are, you know, cuddling up to their love interest's corpse, I think you would officially call that very dramatic, but very good for fall. Yes, it's very intense and romantic. It's my favorite story. I will make a review of this once I actually read the book, but the movie, it's very dark and gloomy, but you can tell they love each other. Like, they just love each other, even though they can't be together because of status, which, you know, that's a theme in a lot of, you know, classical romantic literature, is two lovers that are kept apart because of, you know, basically one person's a broke joke and the other person's like, hey, I can't deal with this. But that's the kind of like the tragedy of it, is that they should be together anyway, because life is too short, really, honestly. Okay, this is a really exciting book that I found in the book house outside, which is such a blessing. But I didn't realize, if you go on eBay or Amazon or anywhere online, this book runs from like $80 to $130. Yes, this book called The Weirdest People in the World by C.B. Colby. And the sad thing is that this book has such bad reviews. Like, on Goodreads, I think it's like 3 stars. But it was like written in the 60s, and it's a ghost story of, there's like, I think 85 little ghost stories. And let me read you the titles of these, and they have like the coolest illustrations. I mean, come on, this is good for fall, right? The Man They Couldn't Bury. Yeah, that's one of them. Plague of Worms. Like, really spooky baby ghost stories. The General and the Devil. The Ghost with the Flaming Fingers. See, I'm really looking forward to reading that one. The Little Egyptian Prince with a cemetery picture. Like, what genius is C.B. Colby? I mean, gee willikers. Vanished Lighthouse Men. A Night with the Dead. I mean, this is like really campy, but it's also really great because it's like exactly what you would want in a gothic, spooky short story, ghost story. And it's funny because he says that these stories he collected from his travels, and he says some of them happened to him. Do you believe them? So you're like, the mission when you read this book is you have to see, well, did this really happen? Is this a real story? Like, is this like a legit, legit story? And I'm really sad that this book is $80 to $100, because I know a lot of people out there cannot afford that for a vintage book. And I would not have gotten this gem if it wasn't for free in the little book house outside, in the little book library. So I looked it up to see if I could find a PDF of this online for free if anyone wanted to read it. And it turns out that one of my favorite websites, which is archive.org, actually has a copy PDF of this, and you can check out this book online for, get this, an hour. So all you have to do is log in with your like Gmail account, and you know, it's like you're already logged in, and then you just press the button and it lets you read the book for an hour. And I've never checked out a book from archive.org. I've only downloaded their music, especially like all the music that's like from before, you know, like really old music. But I really don't know if they let you check out the book more than once. So like, do you really only get an hour? I don't know, but honestly, it's like one of the best resources if you are really into like vintage stuff or antiques or archival stuff, especially for dark academia. Like that website's the best. It's just the best you can get. Like, you can get photos, videos. I am not being paid by them to mention this because, first of all, I think it's like a free thing from the government. I'm just saying that that's a resource that I am really fond of. Especially the more stuff I have to like from, like, if I go check out a book from a real library, I usually have a hard time returning it, and this way I can just, click the button. But it's really great for downloading music from like the 1910s, or even you can get like weird audio. It's like if you're really bored and you just want to like rummage through like an estate sale, but you're not at an estate sale, it's kind of like the same thing. It's kind of weird. You're like, wow, I didn't know this was part of history, because it just shows up. So anyway, this book is real exciting. Let's go really quick because I know this video was taking a while. I wasn't expecting. This book I've had for like 5 years. It's called Aunt Dimity Vampire Hunter. I first got this book when I first moved into this apartment, and I honestly, it's one of those books where you're like, I have this. I don't know why I have this. I don't know where I got it. I better read it somehow. And apparently has really good reviews. Basically, it's really it's almost like a vampire comedy where 2 5-year-olds find or drag home a vampire, and then the adults are like, oh man, what's up with this? What's up with this vampire the kids brought home? And I guess this sleuth, Aunt Dimity, is in charge of figuring out where the vampire covered with, what does it say? A pale, cloaked figure with blood-stained lips lurking in the woods. I'm sure it'll take like a day to read, and it'll be worth it, hopefully. Okay, this book, Tender as the Night by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I guess everyone is familiar with The Great Gatsby, but this is one of his other books. In particular, a lot of his stories were autobiographical in nature, and this novel apparently is a reflection of the degradation of his relationship with, he started becoming a raging alcoholic, and his wife, Zelda, became literally crazy, and he had to put her in a sanatorium. And this story is about a man who is a doctor who falls in love with his patient, and I've not read it, so I'm not really quite sure what that's where the plot goes, but it doesn't end up very well, I hear. And there's a lot of references to this book in music, and Fitzgerald actually the title is from a poem that was written about a nightingale. So it's just a book that I feel like I have to read. I don't know if it's necessarily a fall book. It could be a summer or a spring book, but this is what I'm reading this fall. I will get back to you on what I actually think of this, because I actually have no idea, but The Great Gatsby is probably one of my favorite novels ever. I have very fond memories with that book. Alright, this next book, real quick. Mary Shelley, Frankenstein. Another book I'm very embarrassed I've never read. It's a classic. It's a classic book, but I also feel like I know more about Mary Shelley's life than I do about the actual plot of Frankenstein. I have watched all of the old movies with Frankenstein. I have watched even all of the movies about Mary Shelley's life. She was one of the romantics, along with she was friends with Lord Byron, and, well, friends is a weird term. But Percy Shelley, I guess, he claimed that he wrote this book when really it was her, and this was like the first science fiction novel ever written. And it was about bringing back it was about a monster made out of corpses that was brought back to life, and he was very lonely, and apparently Mary Shelley, from what I'm understanding, was also very lonely. Her relationship with Percy sucked. He slept with the whole town, basically. I mean, he was a drunk. He left her alone a lot. Her mother abandoned her and died early. She was very lonely, and so there's a lot of like heartfelt, from what I hear, because I haven't read it, but like the idea of like the monster being unlovable is something I think everyone can relate to, and I hear that she writes it very eloquently, but I've only read passages of it's not the full thing. But I think I'm really excited to read that because of fall again. And these are ones that I've started reading. This is a really good book. It's called Orwell's Roses by Rebecca Solnit. And she is an essayist who basically has discovered through her own love of plants and trees with a friend. She discovered George Orwell's propensity towards finding beauty and happiness with his rose garden. And I know that sounds kind of boring, but it's completely not boring at all. Like, he was the most cranky, cantankerous, negative, like, all of his books, like, are about the negativity of the world, but this book is about what he found beautiful in the world, and it's impeccably written. I'm surprised that I haven't read more, but it's one of those books that it's so good you can only read one chapter at a time and just kind of sit and go, I gotta think about this for like a week, because it's a lot to digest. And the chapter titles are another beautiful. The chapter titles are amazing. So the first chapter is Day of the Dead, Flower Power, Lilacs and Nazis, Smoke, Shell, Ice, Mud, Ashes, In Darkness, Roses and Revolution, The Last Rose of Yesterday, Empire of Lies, Sugar, Poppies and Teak, Flowers of Evil, The Ugliness of Roses, Snow and Ink. I mean, those are the chapter titles, and they do not disappoint. One of the best books I've ever read that I haven't finished. but I will this fall. Okay. Yeah. Let's see here. This last book. Oh boy, this one's a doozy. Gore Vidal is the author, and the title is Myra Breckinridge / Myron. Okay, where do I begin with this? This book is written by a man about the main character is a woman who, it's very poetic, but she's like from the 1930s during like the silver screen era where, you know, or maybe it was the 40s. It's really hard to tell, but it was like she's like a femme fatale girl who's like the most beautiful woman alive, but she talks about her beauty like it's like this violent weapon, which is strange that a man would call beauty a violent weapon, but I guess in a way female beauty can be like a violent weapon. Like she uses it like it's the art of war. Like it's like it almost makes it ugly the way she talks about beauty, but then it gets weird because I guess Myra Beckenham was never really a woman to begin with. I think she's actually a tranny. And that's where things get even more complicated because it's so poetic, you kind of can't really tell. But it's incredibly written, it's vampy, and it's seductive, but it's really bizarre. And she's, I guess, determined to be a megastar. But then, I guess, the last book, she shares a body with a man, and yeah, I don't know. And then someone, yeah, Time magazine was like really appalled and asked, has literary decency fallen so low? And so it's like, it's about a tranny, but when you go into reading it, you're like, man, I have no idea what's going on here. Like, you don't feel, I mean, God bless everyone's sexuality. That's how I feel. Like, anyone can, I have no opinion, but like, when I first started reading this, I was like, I didn't know, you know, and I think that's kind of the whole point, is you're not supposed to know, like, it's not supposed to be on the nose. And, I will absolutely not get political about, you know, sexuality, but I guess what my concern with this book is the author's very interesting description of beauty being this violent, forceful thing that women have power over things, but most women I don't think really think that way, and so as a man's perspective, what they think beauty is, I think that's what's fascinating and weird. Yeah, it makes you wonder, like, wow, it's so bizarre. I mean, I think that's why it's good for fall, because fall is a very good time for bizarre things, for ghosts, for spooky things, especially hats. It's a great time for hats. It's a great time for cake, especially lemon cake. Yeah. I mean, I've got a lot of books here to read, and I may not go through all of them, but if you have read any of them, please let me know. And if you do visit archive.org and you find it as fascinating as I do, please write a comment and tell me if you found anything weird on that website. or cool, because I think it's honestly one of the coolest things on the internet. Like, I wish I could live a million years old just so I could go through everything on that website and have enough time for it. That's how I feel. Anyway, thanks, and I hope you guys all have a great fall. Okay, so goodbye, friends.